In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
Alright folks, this is Rick Robinson with you. I want to tell you about some friends of mine from a company called Security Enforcement Specialists. When I ran my security agency for 12 years, I worked with one of these partners on a daily basis. He's been involved in this agency now, and with his other partner, they do have over 30 years of experience in the private security industry. If you own a business and you need someone to keep you or your customers or residents safe, then I highly recommend contacting Security Enforcement Specialists today. Give them a call at 405-703-1796. Again, that's 405-703-1796. Again, tell them Rick from K98 Talk sent you. Like I said, if you need the help, they are here for you. So make sure that you go look them up, check them out, and see what they can do.
Wrong way. Welcome to the place. Welcome to
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
It got up to like $68,000. My heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
The Internet will never be the same. You're listening to K98Talk.com.
Whoa! Good God, y'all. What is it good for? Absolutely. Now get set again.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We're establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired as I am about the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on WNJC Radio 1360 a.m. or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioNetwork.com and CCRN.com for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard. From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
He's right. He is Colonel Alan West. I'm Kevin Wade. It is Monday, the 28th of September, year of our Lord 2015. And you're listening not to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show, but to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. And in the studio is none other than our show's inspirational founder and leader, Mr. Rick Trader. Rick?
Kevin, great to be with you again, my friend.
It's always great to be working together, and I'll tell you, I want to share with our audience here in the Mid-Atlantic and those listening on the Internet around the country and around the world. I saw an astounding sight as I was driving to the studio just in the past 15 minutes. I saw gasoline that's for your automotive vehicles, for $1.87 cash price a gallon. And it's a great world we live in. Thank you for Enterprise.
Yes, you're right with that, Kevin. But that's here in the state of New Jersey, where we have the highest taxes in the country, but the second lowest gas tax. Well, the idiots in Trenton want to remedy that little situation.
By dropping your real estate taxes?
Oh, yeah, that would be nice. But no, they want to put in an additional 40 cents a gallon onto the price of gasoline. They're using the excuse, oh, look how low you people are paying for gas now. And we've got so much infrastructure that we have to take care of. But, Kevin, this money isn't going just for infrastructure, for roads, but it's also going for things like mass transit and whatever. And I think people that use mass transit should pay their fair share. They say to the rest of us, they say to the motorist that we need to pay our fair share, so we have to raise your gas tax. But what about the people that use mass transit?
Well, I think we should have fair share quality. I think if you're taking 2 scoops out of the well, you got to pay for 2 scoops out of the well. And if I don't take anything out of the well, let me walk by without taxing me. So the same thing kind of applies if you're riding on the mass transit, which I understand is ridiculously inexpensive to the casual rider going from parts near here up toward the New York City area.
Well, Kevin,
artificially
from Trenton, New Jersey, down to Camden, they have this thing called the River Link line. And I would guess, I don't know, what's that, like 40 miles maybe? 35, 40 miles? Well, the price to ride this River Link line is like about $1.40. $1.40, Kevin, which is great for the people that are riding it. But this thing is so heavily subsidized, the price should be over $5, in my opinion. I'm not a transportation expert. I'm not saying I'm one.
Don't worry. It appears they don't have any transportation experts here in New Jersey.
But they want to subsidize all this mass transit. They stick it to the driver once again. So they're using this example. Oh, look how low gas prices are. This is a wonderful opportunity we have. Well, even the Republicans in Trenton are going along with this now. Kevin, and I'm going to warn our listeners out there, they might want to cover their ears what I'm about to say, but I would love to take this gas nozzle and stick it up where the sun don't shine. It's what I would love to do with the gas nozzle. It's what I'd love to do with these politicians who do nothing but sit around Trenton and Washington and other places, other state houses, and do nothing but think about ways other than to screw the taxpayer, to screw the motorist once again.
They know best, especially the liberals. But it is sad to hear that there are Republicans who are joining into that mob frenzy.
Yes, John Brimiak, one of the most powerful Republicans in the state legislature in New Jersey, says, well, he's now ready to vote for a gas tax increase. As is Steve Sweeney. Steve Sweeney is probably going to run for governor next 2 years from now.
Not after voting for a gas tax.
Oh, well, he thinks he can. And I'm hoping that this issue, this raising the gas tax, several years ago we had something called Hands Across New Jersey, where people like us got together and said enough is enough. They kicked out the Democrat legislature. They put a Republican legislature in there.
Really?
But they got corrupted. They got corrupted. People like Christine Todd Whitman. You know, as I said, we have the highest property tax in the country. Christy Todd Whitman says, oh, we're going to give you all tax breaks. We're going to, you know. So what she did was she went out and borrowed money. She went out and borrowed money to give people homestead tax rebates that we're still paying off that debt. Instead of making the size of government smaller, no, they can't do that. They can't do that. They'll just go out and borrow money to give people homestead rebates. It's ridiculous.
Well, that passes for governance in the Garden State of New Jersey. We don't have it much better in Delaware. There's talk about putting automatic escalators on certain of our taxes so that the voters, for example, can expect an automatic increase in their school property taxes.
Automatic escalators.
Yep. Now, I understand that actually has found a home and is thriving in New Jersey, but it's considered foreign and obnoxious to us in Delaware, and it has been fought so far.
Well,
but the thing about politicians is they forget it's not their money. You know, they're not our betters. They're, in fact, frankly, in personal observation, many are not our equals. But I've earned my money. It's mine, and you better come up with a really, really, really good reason why you want more of it. That reason has to be something I can understand, and keep the social justice warrior stuff to yourself, because I don't want to reduce my income down to the poverty level. So you think you've made a perfect society. So you find better ways to spend the money you already have. Our problem, as so many conscientious conservatives have explained, is not a lack of revenue, but just too darn much spending.
Indeed. Too much spending, the size of government is so big. For instance, they got this thing called the Delaware River Port Authority, okay, that controls bridges and mass transit crossing the Delaware River. Well, the price of the bridges right now is like $5 to cross the bridge. In 1926, when the Ben Franklin Bridge was opened, the cost was $0.25. And supposedly, when the bridge was paid off, the bridge was going to be free. Well, that was in 1926. Like 89 years ago, that was. But no, they decided, oh, well, we need more bridges, we need more mass transit, we need the Delaware River Port Authority. And what this Port Authority is used for, Kevin, is for the governors on either side of the river to put their political hacks, to give them jobs. So we continue to pay higher and higher tolls just so the governor of New Jersey and the governor of Pennsylvania has somewhere to put their political patronage people.
Well, yeah, we had one of those fine gentlemen from the Delaware team, because, you know, when a bridge crosses from Delaware to New Jersey, you have equal representation of these appointees from both states. So we had an appointee on the Delaware team who somehow decided that the authority needed to have its own private plane, and that he needed to be using it on a weekly basis on weekends. He was never able to convince the judge nor the jury in the official business side of his use of that plane. I believe he went to a place where you don't have to worry about what clothes to wear every day for quite a few years. They picked out his clothing for him. But occasionally they get caught with their hands in the cookie jar, and when they do, we have a momentary outbreak of some social justice, real justice.
I love that. I love the social justice, real justice. Maybe that's what I should call my idea about taking the gas nozzle and stick it where the sun don't shine. A little bit of social justice. But Mateo, ask Mateo to do up a
Mateo is in the studio with us. He's the gifted studio engineer, as well as probably the creative force in the room right now.
Absolutely.
And Mateo has been undertaking the study of what subject recently that you've been writing about?
Minimum wage.
He's been looking at minimum wage. And he's prepared to take his argument into his professor and win that debate. He's crafted it. He's defended it. He's argued it. He's got his facts in place. He knows what needs to be said. And I suspect that your professor is going to take exception. But this is how you shape your mind so that you can do critical thinking when you are finally released from the ivory towers of academia.
How's that paper going, Mateo?
It's about 7 pages too long.
About 7 pages. What I was getting at when I brought up his name, Kevin, is I asked him to do up a commercial, an anti-raise the gas tax commercial in the state of New Jersey. I asked him to put in that line. He's such a nice guy. He refused to do it.
Well, I'm changing subjects. I see that scientists, NASA has announced that there is water on Mars. Thank goodness there's water on Mars. Now, I wonder whether said water, because there are no human beings, Rick. Do you know there are no human beings on Mars?
No, I didn't.
There's not a single
I've not been there for a while, so I didn't know.
There are no steel mills. There's no chemical plants. There's no lumber mills up there. There's no paper mill. There is no sign of human habitation on the planet Mars. So I wonder whether the EPA would approve this water as being potable, drinkable, and safe for everyday Americans. I suspect if they could do a chemical analysis of the stuff, you wouldn't want to get near it.
Probably
but that's
not.
just me.
Probably not. I certainly wouldn't want to drink it. Hey, Kevin, we are up against our first break. Do you want to do the honors or you want me to do it?
We're coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network Studios, WNJC 1360 AM, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the internet with CPR Worldwide Media, a leading-edge radio network, TalkStream Live, the Pundit Press, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM, FM 24/7. They all end in .com. And you can listen to our show at any time on our websites, ccrsnetwork.com and ccrshow.com. You stay with us. We will be right back in just a very few minutes.
They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos radio network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
If you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our websites, www.ccrsnetwork.com and ccrshow.com, or mornings at 9 a.m. to leadingedgeradionetwork.com. And now you can listen to the Conservative Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. And great show this afternoon. Rick, why don't you run us through the guest list?
Okay, at 3:35, we're expecting to hear from former Congressman Steve Stockman from Texas, and Congressman Stockman is going to be joining us to talk about John Boehner, the resignation of John Boehner, and we're going to get his thoughts on it. Also at 4:05. Where's my notes? I'll stay at my notes. We're going to have Gene Bardelli join us. Gene is the co-host of Behind Enemy Lines, along with Russ Gallo. And Behind Enemy Lines is heard here on WNJC 1360 as part of the Conservative Commandos radio show, or radio network. And Gene is going to be joining us to discuss the Value Voter Summit that took place in Washington, D.C. this past week. And also we're going to get Gene's reaction and the reaction to the people there at the Value Voter Summit of John Boehner's resignation. He also had an opportunity to sit in on an interview with John McCain regarding Speaker Boehner's resignation. So we'll hear that in the 4 or 5 hour. And then in the 4:35 half hour, we're going to continue doing what we've been doing, and that is listening to some of our listeners. We're going to have some of our listeners join today to find out what's on their radar screen.
Very good.
And that's our show.
And I'd like to remind any of our listeners who are to the south of where our broadcast tower is that I will actually be making a personal appearance this evening at the South Coastal Library. That's 43 Kent Avenue in Bethany, Delaware, along the beach, very near Ocean City, New Jersey. South Coastal Library with the Representative District 38 Republican Club, and I will be speaking about the fallacy of anthropogenic global warming. And with that, Rick, I'd like to kind of do part two of a commentary I started last week. The political left is obsessed with carbon dioxide. To them, the control of CO2 is a pillar of their man-made global warming religion. It is only by governmental control of man-based CO2 sources that they are able to save the world from a runaway global heating and destruction, as they see it. This obsession is the result of a perverse intimacy between liberals and government and a new branch of academics known as global climate scientists. Climate scientists must have government funding because there is little other occasion or value in their work apart from policy-driven investigations. So climate scientists deliver to liberals the occasional headline from Chicken Little saying the sky is falling, so very much needed to startle the public and to provide even more generous public funding to the scientists to produce next month's headline. It's an inbred, mutually dependent relationship between liberal politicians and climate scientists. This all paid with your money, but let's examine the truth. Let's begin with a little history. The idea that climate could change ever is a new idea. About the time the telephone was being invented, a scientist in Switzerland observed that the valley contours far below an alpine glacier looked suspiciously like the terrain immediately in front of the glacier high above in the mountains. He concluded reasonably the glacier had earlier been far lower in the valley, and the climate there much colder at one time. No one considered this to reflect worldwide temperatures. It was only a local observation. Soon this was expanded by similar observations across Europe and North America, as the idea of the Ice Age and global climate change slowly began to gain acceptance toward the end of the 19th century. The causes of climate change have been debated and remain contested up to the present time. The issue has become bitterly partisan as liberals create a fear of carbon dioxide as the cause of global warming. So let's step back and look at the big picture. First and foremost, let's look at the temperature. There appears to be no recent warming. Depending upon your viewpoint, the world's temperature is either unchanging or declining in the past 15 or 20 years ago. Even advocates of anthropogenic global warming refer to this period as a warming, quote-unquote, pause. This in direct contrast to dire predictions of 10 and 15 years ago. Al Gore predicted the Arctic Sea would be ice-free by 2010. He seems to be wrong, as we had near record ice coverage this past winter. Secondly, let's understand the planet's climate has changed abruptly many times before the rise of man. There have been multiple ice ages that come and go without the assistance of exhaust from SUVs and wood-burning fireplaces. Since this is well established, the burden of proof is on those who wish to invent new ways to influence the planet's climate. To date, the man-made global warming advocates have not been able to produce credible evidence that man has intervened in natural weather cycles. Thirdly, let's look at the role of the sun. Variations in the output of the sun cause an immediate change in Earth temperatures. This was clearly established in simple tests performed by the Center for Atmospheric Research, a federally funded institution in Boulder, Colorado. On days with incrementally higher solar outputs, the temperatures measured at cities across the country were, well, incrementally higher. This seems to be simple common sense, and yet the study is avoided in all left-wing conversations about climate change. We also know of the Little Ice Age of the 17th and 18th century, the Maunder Minimum, and the cooling period and crop failures at the end of the Roman Empire. All these are associated with lower solar output, not with greenhouse gases. Fourthly, let's take a look at the role of carbon dioxide among greenhouse gases. The basic premise is that carbon dioxide is the predominant greenhouse gas. It's not. CO2 is less than 3% of the total greenhouse gas in the entire atmosphere. The greater part of CO2 itself comes from natural sources unrelated to mankind. CO2 simply is not a large component in the world's greenhouse gases. Water vapor, H2O, is and makes up 95% of all greenhouse gases. Water vapor overwhelms the effect of all other gases, including CO2. So there we have it. Political leaders on the left seek to control the use of the world's major source of energy, fossil fuels. To do this, and to control the amount of to control, as they see it, the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere, in spite of the fact that most CO2 is from natural sources. They do this when they know the most important greenhouse gas is water vapor. They do this in spite of the acknowledged role of the sun and not greenhouse gases in driving changes to climate. Liberals continue to grasp at more control of our way of life, even though they are unable to explain the ancient and long-established cycles of the climate well before the appearance of modern man. Finally, the Democrats persist in this perverse interest in controlling the world's major energy sources, in spite of the evidence that planet temperature is not even getting warmer. So the attempt to control CO2 emissions by the Democrats is not a liberal rescue mission to save the world. The world doesn't need to be saved. What the liberals advance is not settled science. It's not science at all. Instead, it is a cult-like impulse to force their quasi-religious views on all peoples of the world. If their beliefs were only personally held by them, no harm would be done. But because they have acted ruthlessly on their views, much of our prosperity has been upended. Jobs are lost. Huge past investments in power plants are wasted. High-wage manufacturing that relies on inexpensive energy is devastated. Consumer energy and food prices rise needlessly, and the prospects for our renewed American prosperity that could have emerged and thrived are aborted. These liberal green policies in reality are a cruel tax on Americans and our future. For these reasons, we must sweep aside these mistakes. We need to stop hurting people We need to stop draining their pocketbooks. We need to stop punishing energy-intensive manufacturing jobs and the blue-collar paychecks they produce. And we need to rebuild a world where Americans can live and prosper. Let me close with this quote from John Ball, a commentator in the United Kingdom. And I quote, "If we scrapped completely the foolhardy and scientifically unsound chase to reduce carbon, while still aiming for greater efficiency in energy usage, we would have all the money needed to bring the third world out of poverty, save millions of lives every year, and create a fairer and far more balanced world." Well, John Ball, I agree with you. Rick, I'm Kevin Wade, and that's the way I see it.
Kevin, great commentary. I love the way you think, my friend. And it makes me, every time I hear anything about climate change, global warming, I want to remind these people that in the last 100,000 years, we've had 4 major ice ages. The last one was only about 12,000 years ago. In some places, the ice was in North America over 2 miles thick. There were no people around 12,000 years ago, or not that many people around to melt all that ice by heating their home, by driving cars, whatever. But, Kevin, we do have our first guest with us, and the honor of the introduction is yours.
Hey, thank you very much. I believe he's calling from a great distance, so I will speak up. Steve Stockman served in the U.S. House of Representatives representing the 36th District of Texas with the vision of limited government, strong support for American families, and a robust national defense. While in Congress, Steve Stockman sat on the House Foreign Affairs Committee and played an active role in uncovering the truth about the attack on the U.S. consulate in Benghazi. And with that, Congressman Stockman, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Well, thank you so much. I was listening to your discussion a little bit on the global warming back a long time ago, and I really think it's because the bison were using antifreeze and smoking cigarettes. Guys are so insensitive.
What a combination.
And I thought it was over hunting. Okay, it was this darn tobacco that did them in.
It's funny. I don't know if you saw the predictions. I mean, these guys, they're so funny that, first they have global cooling, then global warming. They're going, okay, we give up. It's climate change. You can't. And it happens 4 times a year.
Well, it's about time they do something about that, okay? Congressman, it's so good to have you back on the show. Well, there's big news out of Washington. Now, I know you're not firmly entrenched in Washington these days. You are a free man and you're speaking freely with a clear conscience. But,
that's right.
But what do you make of the resignation of Speaker of the House, John Boehner?
Well, I tell you, a real hero in all this. And by the way, they're going to make it. I just read an article. It's called On the Hill, where this shows you how fake all the news is. They said that the conservative group, the Freedom Caucus, actually was in negotiation with Boehner's office in August. So it's kind of a little bit of deception there that it was spontaneous. And the person who gets the most credit is Congressman Mark Meadows, who is a great conservative and just a really godly man, too. And if you ever, I don't know if you have him on your show, but you should pull him on your show. He's just a really great guy, and I served with him on the Foreign Affairs Committee. But he issued a thing to vacate the chair, which can be, without getting too much technical stuff, it could be a privileged motion, meaning they have to take it up. Boehner can't bury it, can't do this. And he didn't. He was pretty smart. He just laid it on the table and said, "This is what we're going to do if we don't get some changes." And that was enough, because it would be very embarrassing for someone that's in the speaker to lose the chair, and then thereby you leave office. And most of the time when that technique is used, usually the person in charge or the speaker leaves within a year. So that's exactly what happened. Mark won't take credit for it. He's very modest. Oh, no. But in truth, that's what happened. I'm sure what Boehner did over what they call a recess break was to contact people to find out, or his people, his lieutenants, and found out he didn't have the support. So, he did what he had to do.
And also by
but the problem,
Steve, also by making that motion just prior to the August recess, it allowed a lot of conversations to take place back home for a lot of Republican congressmen who were getting, peppered with these questions. And they had to understand where they stood in relation to their own constituents in this matter.
Yeah, the timing, Mark's timing and his execution was actually pretty flawless. I mean, the guy with a great deal of principle, so it's not I'm more bombastic and, going after people. I'm pretty aggressive. Where Mark is considered to be, I'm the bomb thrower. He's really considered to be a more, quote, thoughtful guy. Because I guess he talks slower. I don't know. but he really is one of the best congressmen on the Hill. He really is. Unfortunately, he's not running, and neither are many conservatives that should be running. Louis Gohmert, my good friend's not running. Some other people aren't running. And the problem is, from what I understand, in August, they made an agreement with a guy who's just like Boehner without the crying and probably actually a little bit more vindictive than Boehner. And that really concerns me. I just think McCarthy is going to be a... By the way, they're both bar owners, so that says something about where our Congress is.
So... What are the dynamics behind the scene to build support for being the Speaker of the House? Is it kind of like being selected as the precinct captain, but on a grander scale?
No, it's a little bit more. Well, yes and no. I mean, the situation is that you build people's loyalty to appointments at committee chairmanship. Now, that's something that I never really... I don't know, if someone says, you really want to have a Corvette, but if you don't really want a Corvette, it's not, that much of a motivating factor. And for me, it was never really that much of a motivator. They said, you'll never make chairman. I go well, I wasn't planning on it. Because I'd rather do the right thing than worry about a position. Well, many of those guys in those positions, that is their whole career, their whole, who they are, the power. Chairmanships have very strong power. And so they're responsible for all the votes on their committee. So you have a chairman, and you tell your lieutenants, chairman, hey, I want this done, blah, blah, blah. And they, in turn, get all the people in line to support, you. And so there's a lot of pledges made to people that have a lot of sway. So that's how it works. It's very similar to the way that Costa Nostras and others divide things up,
Yeah, pretty much the way things have worked for 5,000 years, I guess. But so in the musical chairs, it begins by by emptying the Speaker of the House's chair. That sets up all this locomotion, and people are now thinking, I can be the next chair of that committee if I sign up to this branch of the family, so to speak.
Yeah, and they want to go with the guy that's winning. So it's self-fulfilling, unfortunately. They say, well, McCarthy's going to win, so I'm going to cut a deal with it. It's really, pretty disappointing. I always say it looks like the way you make sausage, but it is kind of disappointing the way people do it. And really the 40 principal people in the Freedom Caucus are really trying to marginalize them. And in the Washington Post, everybody's going to be ridiculing them. But that's one thing, if your listeners can get the list, and I'm sure you can by Googling it, but you really need to write or call and give them a word of encouragement, because I tell you, it gets pretty lonely up there when you have the whole national press and people coming out, standing outside your door attacking you. It's not something that's just done like once. It's just over and over and over and over again. In fact, when I was first in office, we actually had people staked out in front of my apartment. So it was... It's not pleasant, so that's why it's always good for your listeners to call and say, or drop a note and say, we appreciate you doing, keep up the good work, because we don't hear enough from our side, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's understood, and it's I don't know how this is going to play out with the rank and file, with the grassroots. If they look back in 6 months and find out that Kevin McCarthy is just a West Coast version of John Boehner. That's going to be smack dab in the middle of the final 3 months of 4 months of a presidential campaign, and that could absolutely blow up. I mean, the grassroots want to see a battle line drawn And they don't expect to win, but they do expect to see someone form a battle line and fight.
Well, I mean, that's what's so stupid about over in the Senate. McConnell goes, well, he's going to veto it. Well, you let him veto the bill, then run on it. I mean, it's just a ridiculous premise. Well, he's going to veto it. Could you imagine a football team going, Notre Dame going, well, we're not going to go out in the field because our opponents are going to kick our butt, so we're going to stay back. No, we're not going to play the game because we're going to lose. They need to put that stuff on there and get Obama vetoing and putting Democrats. This and I think it's important. Even if Obama vetoes it, you now have senators that are going to vote for or against Planned Parenthood funding. I mean, that's important to get those people on record for them to be defeated. It's mind-boggling the rationale they use. Well, we don't want to be fighters. We want to all get along. Well, if you're going to burn, the Democrats say we're going to burn down D.C. and the Republicans say no, we're going to do it in sections. You still achieve the same thing. I mean,
well, speaking of the Freedom Caucus, I want to point some of our listeners to Andy Harris of Maryland. He's a member of the caucus. Scott Garrett of New Jersey, speak with him. Scott Perry of Pennsylvania. That might be within our footprint.
Scott, you must have him on your show, I'm sure, frequently. He is a tremendous guy.
And as former Congressman Steve Stockman says, call them, give them encouragement, give them some good heart, because it's not, the folks back home are not interested in how smoothly Washington is running. They're scared to death about how poorly their lives are unfolding. And I've used this example on the show before. I mean, there's a fellow by the name, he was half American, so we'll give him half credit, by the name of Winston Churchill, who
I think he's going to say Obama.
No, I wouldn't. You've got the wrong call-in station here, my friend. But Winston Churchill, now this is important, is best remembered for his defiance in the face of defeat at the worst possible time, because it was his defiance that rallied the public for the final victory. And if you have leaders who say, hey, they've got 5,000 tanks and we've got 50, they've got 3 million troops and we can only muster up 300,000 who don't have their guns anymore because they left them on the beach back at Dunkirk, let's go negotiate a settlement. You're not going to win the battle, and we have to win the battle for the sake of our republic.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. In the American way, much as what Churchill spoke to, is to fight against all odds. But now we capitulate against all odds. I mean, we throw the towel in before the first bell's rung. It's just amazing. And McConnell's been in office for a long time. Should know that the importance of getting people on record. And I almost think he intentionally doesn't vote in order to do favors to these people. He's a nice guy, I don't want to put him in the position of voting on us. That's the wrong attitude to take. I remember when I first defeated a congressman back in the 90s, and he was there 42 years. I had Republicans coming up to me, we really liked his wife, and we can't believe you defeated him. I mean, I was like, you got to be kidding me. I was so shocked. Of course, other people thank me, but it's still odd behavior.
No, you're supposed to express the will of your constituents. I mean, if you won't be their voice, and that voice, the message can change every couple of years, okay, because our interests change. But if you won't be their voice, who in the world could be their voice? I mean, it really is a solemn responsibility.
The mechanism, you're absolutely right. The mechanism is supposed to be that, but there are, as I spoke to, people that see themselves as, this is their livelihood, this is who they are, and the more power they get, the more. I mean, some of these guys start believing their own press releases. I mean, it's a very dangerous situation. You're there to serve the people, not the other way around, and yet there's a lot of guys that believe that and act that way, and it's often after a while you do get spoiled. I mean, I think at the height, I had almost 40 people working for me, and all of them catering to you and telling you how great you are.
Yeah, but in your case, you deserved it, Steve. You knew that.
What's that?
Hey,
I didn't believe it.
Steve, could you stay with us through a short break? I really would like to continue this conversation.
Yeah, I can, but as I said, I'm 8,000 miles away. I hope you can hear me. Sometimes they say there's clicking noise when I call from overseas.
Well, that's the NSA, and they're working another show right now. The fellow who pays the bill says, "Don't worry about the commercial." Okay, well, Kevin Wade, commercial sponsors. It wasn't Kevin Wade. Okay, so we're going to stay with you. So we're going to have Kevin McCarthy.
No. You can do a quick commercial. I'll hang. I don't want to lose. I mean, this is free market. That's no problem. I'll just send the bill to him. No, I'm kidding. Hey, real quick, how close are you to Scott's district, by the way?
Scott Garrett? Scott Garrett is in North Jersey. I would say we're about 100 miles.
Well, you ought to really thank him, because a lot of times he's very, I don't know how well, I'm sure you know him well, but he is very principled, and I might add, he's not braggadocious or anything. He's relatively calm, but man, every time I see him do anything, he's really good.
Well, Congressman Stockman, that's the only criticism that I've ever heard about Scott Garrett. Is some people think he needs to be a little bit more out there, a little bit more braggadocious, but that's just not him.
No, he's not exactly Donald Trump, is he?
No, he isn't. No, he isn't.
No, he's very, actually, and nothing to, I think one of the reasons he's quiet, he's a very thoughtful guy. You know, you ask him a question, you can tell he's actually listening to the debate. He reads a lot. I mean, I don't know this for sure, but it appears to read everything he votes on. He's just a real amazing guy in terms of a congressman, and he's from New Jersey.
I know. He's really the only true conservative congressman that we have in the state of New Jersey. We have other Republicans, but they're rhino Republicans like Lobiando, MacArthur, Leonard Lance, people that call themselves Republicans, but I would say they have a little R behind their name.
Well, for your listeners, I can testify that in private, he is just as thoughtful and considerate and conservative as he is in his public. So if you guys can encourage him, even when like his birthday comes around and everybody call and wish him happy birthday, just because he gets beat up a lot, and he's very stoic. He will not really complain to anybody, and yet he takes some very good positions.
Well, the good news is he's in a pretty safe district up there. That is one of the few really safe Republican districts in the state.
Well, I'm sure they packed it so they could get more Democrats elected.
Of course, surrounded by 19 Democrat districts.
Yeah. Congressman, what was very interesting, and I'll pass this on to you. I don't know if you saw this or not, but the last Friday morning when it was announced that Boehner was retiring, I just happened to be watching ABC, and George Stephanopoulos was on there with his partner there, and she was nearly crying. She was nearly crying by saying, "Oh, this is going to make it so much harder for Barack Obama." And I was slightly encouraged by that, but now I'm not as encouraged as I was Friday morning. The more and more I find out about Kevin McCarthy.
Tell you what, McCarthy, one time they do what's called, he was a whip when I got there, and they do a whip check, which means they're asking you, how are you voting on XYZ, so they know, the direction the ship's going, which I don't have a problem with that. And one time I changed my mind, and he just blew up at me and started screaming at me. I'm like, you know what? I said, I got elected here to do the right to do the right thing. And I said, I read more of the bill, and I don't like it. You can't do that. You can't tell me one thing and do another. So that day forward...
Oh, you mean he got mad at you because you read the bill?
Yeah, well, that day forward, his staff would ask me how am I voting on the bill. I said, I don't know yet. I never answered again. I said, well, if I'm going to get in trouble for telling you. I mean, 9 out of 10 times I told them what I was going to do, but that one time for him to get upset over me changing was just over the top. And he really blew up. So I don't know. I think it's going to be much worse on the conservatives, and I'm stunned that they would negotiate with him in August not to take them out. That was just unbelievable. I think that, I don't know. So we're going to see. I think I'm right on this one, though, unfortunately.
Congressman, there was an article that I received today from Kate Scanlon. She writes for the Daily Signal. And she said 6 times John Boehner clashed with conservatives. I'd like to give you this list real quick. And if you could, tell me what you think might change with a Speaker McCarthy. 1, Planned Parenthood. 2, immigration. 3, government spending. 4, the Export-Import Bank. Number 5, the power of the purse. Number 6, Obamacare. Can you see any of those things changing with the Speaker McCarthy?
Yeah, you're going to get immigration passed.
Oh.
I don't know if you realize this. He's from California, and that's a very big issue there. And it's really drives me nuts. And so we can have a pathway to citizenship. We have a pathway. It's pretty well worn down. You can follow the pathway of millions of others. So I don't know why they keep saying there's got to be a pathway to citizenship. No, it's just not the case. We have pathway, but he's pro-immigration for illegal immigrants to come in. Which, ironically, if we did this actually in our office, we took the stats of the elections in California, where the majority of the illegal immigrants became legal after Ronald Reagan in '84, and it's when we lost California. California used to be a Republican state. There's a direct correlation to the percentage of new immigrants and Republicans losing. And even Facebook founder, who's, by the way, a radical leftist, who was running the group Conservatives for Immigration Reform, which is really weird. It's kind of like, Nazis for Jews or something. I mean, it was bizarre. And he even admitted, he said, yeah, his primary focus is actually voters, not any other kind of thing. I mean, he's pretty blunt. His sister was on the Obama campaign. So, and ran his Facebook, by the way, and the majority of Romney's Facebook ads are run by Obama. So you had some pretty nefarious stuff going on, and he's really a dislikable gentleman in terms of his business habits, as you saw from the movie, and now in terms of his political habits, even his construction of his home. He blocked the streets for months while he spent millions and millions of dollars constructing his home and chasing off neighbors. He just is a very selfish person, and having this immigration policy it will lose Texas to the Democrats if it passes. And you will never, ever get a Republican elected to office at the national level, like president, ever again.
And you know who really, really, really resents some fast track to citizenship or quasi-citizenship for illegals? It's the millions of people.
Probably the unions should.
No. Well, a lot of the unions, but millions of people who took the 10, 15 years to do it the right way.
Oh, right.
Who waited and filled out the forms and worried that the paperwork was in order and worried that it'd be renewed, and could they did it the right way. They're extraordinarily proud of a life achievement to become a U.S. citizen. It means something to them. And Republicans have no message to reach those people.
Yeah, listen, Rick, my friend who followed that process, he said he feels like he's going to a movie and a bunch of people just cut in line in front of him.
Yep. And why the Republican Party and the conservative movement can't reach those people is beyond me. I mean, it's absolutely beyond me.
They should do the commercial with Barbara Jordan, who's an idol to the left. She's a Texas black congresswoman.
I know. She's special. She's a special one.
She ripped illegal immigration. Ripped it. The documents she produced is some of the best information on immigration. And it all stems back to Ted Kennedy's 1965 immigration bill, which has really been disastrous for American culture.
and jobs in the African American community as well.
Yeah.
There are jobs that for decades, generations, were just the property of some prominent African American families in certain cities, and they have been undercut by newly formed groups where half the work crew is legal, the other half aren't, and they underbid everyone, and they drive that established business out of business. And it plays out again and again and again across big cities in America.
Do you know who wrote the policy paper for Rice Priesthood? It's unbelievable. It is none other than Ari Fletcher, who's, I think that's his proper name. He's now a professor at UCLA, the bastion of conservatism. He's never run for office. He's never won an office. His primary thing was that of a press spokesman. And he comes up with this paper, and then the Republicans adopt it. They say, if we don't allow this rampant immigration, we're going to lose their vote. Trust me, those people coming across the southern border are not libertarian Republicans, or it's just a fallacy. And they think that we did it once, and Reagan did it, and they turned around and 2/3 of them vote against Reagan and Reagan's successors or whatever. And somehow this is going to overnight magically turn these guys into conservatives. It's absolute fallacy.
Yep, and it touches on a person's sense of identity as an American citizen. Whether people in Washington understand it or not, there are many of us consider the fact that we're an American citizen to be one of the most proud identifiers of our entire existence in life. That we are an American citizen either by the good fortune of birth or by that long multi-year journey of naturalization. So very, very proud. And to see people in Washington just kind of demean it and cheapen it and dilute it, it's so offensive at a gut level. And people in Washington don't understand why they are despised. And I mean, I'm not throwing that word out loosely. They're in fact despised by people who love their country.
Yeah, and the thing is, you hear people that do immigrate here that cut the front of the lines, they want to turn it into the culture they left because it was bad. That makes no sense. If you're fleeing your culture you consider bad, why then would you want to impose it on us? And in Houston, there was a United States versus Mexico game, and the citizens of Houston were actually attacking other citizens, primarily non-Mexicans, and they were rooting for the team, which the Mexico team, so they don't have any kind of allegiance or anything. Most of the immigrants that follow the process, they're deeply, not all, but many of them are very deeply patriotic and love this country because they worked so hard getting it and they appreciate it more. The ones that cut in front of the line, as in all cases, don't appreciate it.
Yeah, and there's a common experience that going through the melting pot brings, whether you're an immigrant from Czechoslovakia, the old Czech Republic, or South Korea, and that's something along the lines of you went to the supermarket for the first time, and is it true that if you go 6 more times you get a free turkey? That just amazes people, that exposure to free enterprise and the great freedoms we have, and it's something that they're part of their experience, is part of their becoming an American. They're proud of it. They tell stories about it. They joke about it. It's part of their life. And to see that you can jump in line, okay, because you've got sympathetic friends who help you cross the border, is frankly, I don't know if we use this word anymore, it's anti-American, it's un-American. Steve Stockman, God bless you for coming with us. Thank you for all your good service in Washington, and you're always welcome on the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Well, you guys are great. Keep up the fight. We have so much disinformation out there, and you guys are a ray of hope of countering that. And really just appreciate you guys. And I don't know, in these troubled times, I mean, hearing you guys are just encouraging. So I really appreciate you, too.
Thanks, Congressman. It's always a pleasure.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
We're coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network Studios, WNJC 1360 AM, our flagship station in Philadelphia and around the world on the Internet with CPR Worldwide Media, a leading-edge radio network, TalkStream Live, The Pundit Press, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM, FM 24/7, they all end in .com. And now you can listen to our show at any time from our website, ccrsnetwork.com and ccrshow.com. You stay with us. We'll be back in 3 short minutes.
Washington Township. They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
You've heard Paul Delks playing the music on the Your Music Matters morning show. He is also an experienced mortgage loan officer working for U.S. Mortgage Corporation and assists homeowners navigate the reverse mortgage process. If you are finding yourself asking questions whether or not you set aside enough for retirement, Paul can sit down with you, your family, and your financial advisor and discuss how a reverse mortgage may be a valuable resource for your retirement plan. You will be responsible for paying your taxes and insurance, and the reverse mortgage can help with this and other expenses, such as home health care or other untimely bills. Put Paul's 20-plus years of experience to work for you, as choosing the right option for your situation can be critical. Call Paul at U.S. Mortgage Corporation at 877-213-9977. That's 877-213-9977. Or go to seniormatters.info for more information. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is a licensed mortgage banker in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware, and an equal housing lender. NMLS number 3901. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is located at 201 Old Country Road, Suite 140, Melville, New York, 11747. This advertisement applies to first lien mortgages. Paul E. Dilks, NMLS is 485904.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We're establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired as I am about the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos radio network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on WNJC Radio 1360 a.m. or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioNetwork.com and CCRN.com for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet. We're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show. with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
To the Conservative Commandos radio show with Kevin Wade and yours truly, Rick Trader. And if you'd like to hear rebroadcasts of our shows, check out our website, ccrshow.com or ccrsnetwork.com. Or mornings at 9 a.m., you can log on to Leading Edge Radio Network. Or at 1 p.m., you can log on to the Restoring America Radio Network at roarradio.net. And we do have our next guest with us. Gene Baradelli is the host of Behind Enemy Lines with Russ Gallo. And they're heard here on WNJC 1360 as part of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Thursdays at 1 p.m. Gene, welcome to Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
It's great to be talking to you, Rick. How's everybody doing there?
We are doing fine. And Gene, I know you were at the Value Voter Summit this past week. We intended to get you on this week to talk about it. But while you were there, one of the bombshells of politics happened. The resignation of John Boehner. What went on down there?
You know what? It was the buzz of the initial part of the conference. Nobody saw this coming, Rick. Nobody at the conference knew what was happening. It started leaking out on social media, and then a New York Times article came out that everybody started passing around, and everyone was blown away by it. So, of course, everybody, in Radio Row and in the media there started transitioning from talking about value voters in the presidential race to talking about John Boehner.
Now, while you were there, you had an opportunity to sit in and interview John McCain. And what we would like to do is we would like to put you on hold, and we're going to play that interview for you and our audience, and then pick up this interview with you after that, and I'd like you to critique what John McCain said. So with that, this is the interview with Senator John McCain at the Value Voters Summit about the resignation of John Boehner.
But I hope that the lesson to all of us is now that let's stop fighting with each other and let's sit down together and work out our differences with a common agenda to elect the next president of the United States, keep our majorities in the House and Senate, and put the brakes on this internecine strife that's been going on, where we're spending our time attacking each other rather than the adversary, which is obviously the Democrats, Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama.
Do you think that he lost control of his ability to wrangle Republicans in the House?
I don't know. I know that I saw him recently, and he looked weary. Understandably, he was tired. Sometimes we fail to appreciate that these are human beings with human emotions and lives to lead and all that. And I know that he was wearied, but I'm sure he will be giving a statement as to why he's doing what he's doing.
What do you think this will mean for the possibility of a shutdown?
Well, I hope that it means that we don't, because the President of the United States can veto any bill that, if we could pass. If we shut down the government enough to force a passage through Congress, the President will still veto. And obviously, no one envisions that we could override a presidential veto. But what I'm hoping is that we realize that this fighting amongst us is doing us no good. I also would like to point out again about the shutdown. I'm not interested in shutting down the Veterans Administration. We need to reform the Veterans Administration, but we shouldn't do that to our veterans.
You interested in being Speaker?
There's masochism runs through my family, but not that strongly.
Have you heard Steph share any insight about why he's made this decision?
Why he's stepping down?
Yeah.
As I say, the only conclusion I can draw is that he's tired. He is a human being. He's been under enormous strain and pressure. I happen to have the greatest admiration and affection for him, and I hope out of this that we would have a real impetus for us to sit down together, the different wings of the party, both in House and in Senate, and say, look, our goal is to elect the next President of the United States, a Republican candidate. Now let's resolve these differences as much as possible and move forward.
Are you surprised by this announcement?
I was a bit surprised, but I also knew that John was under a lot of pressure and also tired. It's tough handling this every day. Somebody said being majority, the speaker is like herding cats or frogs in a wheelbarrow. So I can understand it, but I also think that he is an outstanding leader and a wonderful man.
Senator, one other thing. Donald Trump is going to speak here today. Yep. He's leading in a lot of the polls. Sure. But do you think the party will actually nominate him? And what does that mean, that the way the party's going, if they do?
I don't know if the party will or not, because he has obviously confounded all the experts and pundits, especially someone like Steve Holland, who pretends to know everything, as you know from spending time with him.
Thank you, sir.
But no, I'm just not sure, to tell you the truth.
Senator, what do you think about this stuff?
Ask me that again, will you?
Will the party nominate him, or do you think the
I don't know, because I never believed that he would have this much traction as he has, nor has most experts. But so you got to give him credit for maintaining a base of support. I remember 4 years ago at this time, I think Herman Cain was the leader, and then Rick Santorum, so we've got a long way to go. I would just like a certain amount, sometime we're going to want an explanation on certain positions that he has taken. For example, he said he's going to send back 11 million people. I'd like to know how you do that. And I'd like to know where you send the children who were born here. What country do you send them back to? They were born here. So I think people are going to want, over time, some explanations of some of the positions that he is taking. But having said that, he has tapped into a base of anger and frustration amongst average Republicans, which has resulted to his benefit.
Senator, do you think the discussion over the last week or so about Muslims with Donald Trump and Dr. Carson, is that helpful to the party and helpful to the eventual nomination?
It's not only not helpful to the party, but the thing is that we have major issues here. We have this now Vladimir Putin asserting control and a role in the Middle East that he's not had since Anwar Sadat threw them out of Egypt in 1973. We are not winning the battle against ISIS. We have tens of hundreds of thousands of refugees that are flowing into Europe, and we're going to want to come to the United States of America. We're being distracted by issues such as this when there are major issues confronting America's national security. The president, a spokesman the other day, said that the president was vindicated by the failure of our arm and train Syrians to go in and fight against ISIS. He was vindicated at the deaths of I don't know how many people. This is the most bizarre administration. That's the issues we should be focusing on, not whether someone is a Muslim or not, or whether Muslims should be voted on or not. That, in my list of priorities, is about 99, while the world is in flames.
Senator, do you have any qualities that you think Congress should be looking for in replacing Speaker Boehner?
No, that'll be up to the House Republicans. I hope that whoever it is can unify them, and that we can sit down and work together on many issues.
Hey, and that was Senator John McCain, an interview that he did at the Value Voters Summit, brought to us by Gene Baradelli, who's the co-host of Behind Enemy Lines. Gene, the first thing that jumped out at me is when John McCain was talking about is let's stop fighting with each other. Well, gee, wasn't he one of the guys that has been one of the harshest critics of the conservative side, or the conservative wing of the party and the Tea Party? Is this the same guy that's calling for let's stop fighting with each other?
Absolutely right. You know, I got the sense when he was making these comments, and if you notice, he used the word unify more than one time.
Yes.
The sense I got from that statement, Rick, was that he wants the conservative wing of the party, the grassroots wing, the Tea Party, whatever you want to call it, he wants them to come to him and his side, the quote-unquote establishment, and compromise what they're believing and what they're saying and the toned-down rhetoric.
Right.
He's not going the other way and saying, okay, we'll meet you halfway, or we'll meet you a quarter of the way, or we'll even meet you 1% of the way. The sense was, okay, enough is enough. We're the adults, you're the kids. You come to us and you start behaving, and let's unify. It didn't sound like real unification talk. It sounded like enough is enough, and we want things to be back to the way they were with us in charge and you listening to us. And that's not happening anytime soon, especially when you look at who's leading in the polls for the Republican nomination.
Gene, I want to bring Kevin Wade into this next part, because what also he was talking about was shutting down the government. And he says nobody wants to shut down the VA. Now, Kevin Wade, nobody is talking about shutting down the government. We're talking about slowing down the government. About 88% of the government will be open, including the VA. Am I right, Kevin Wade?
Of course. I mean, there's no Republican idea. I can't even imagine a Democrat who wants to see that the VA is closed and our veterans are put out on the streets. This is irresponsible talk from people at the top of the political pyramid. This is part of the problem we have. It's not radical Tea Party members or libertarians in the fruited plains. It's a ranking Republican, one of the most senior Republican senators in the U.S. Senate, talking about some type of political maneuver that results in our veterans being discharged from veterans hospitals. It's absolutely bizarre and crazy, and it tells you the gap that we have between the elite in Washington and the common sense of the people here at home.
You know, Gene, in this interview, John McCain was also talking about how do you send back 11 million people? And he's brought this up before. He says there's not enough buses to send back 11 million people. But, Gene, if our laws are upheld, if people would just follow our laws, it's my impression that those people will go home on their own. We don't need buses. We don't need airplanes. But John McCain insists on, and he keeps on insisting, that we can't send 11 million people back.
Well, he's pointing to the results of the problem of the government not following our own laws. The reason why there are 11 million people here now illegally in the country is because the current administration, and let's be honest, even past administrations, have allowed illegal immigration to occur and for people to stay here. The advent of sanctuary cities like the People's Republic of New York City, where I live, you know, and San Francisco and other places that we've seen have an increase in crime as a result of illegal immigration. These are all symptoms of the same problem. To say that it's too big to fail, I mean, we all heard that argument before when it came to the economy. Now this is the immigration version of too big to fail. You know, we have to come up with something else or some alternative. Now that government has caused and created this problem. Maybe you need to start from an extreme right position, and maybe this isn't so extreme, but you start from a conservative position, and then you compromise Senator McCain. Why are you starting from the middle and then going left? Start from where you say nobody gets to stay, and then see what you can get out of it. That's how negotiation and government should be run at this point. But Kevin, to just throw your hands up and say, well, we can't do it, That's not what we elect you for.
Yeah. Kevin Wade, this is the same noise we've been hearing from the liberal end of the Republican Party for years. But they seem to be stuck in stupid. They seem to be stuck in the same mode as, well, we got to keep trying these things that have failed time and time and time again.
Well, I hate to do this, but I will quote Donald Trump. They're stupid. If they're not as stupid as they appear, they're stupid to consider that we understand and accept what they say. What, there's not enough buses? Are you kidding me? There's not enough buses to deport 11 million people? Are you kidding me? After World War II, there were millions and millions of people wandering around Europe and Asia. Everybody got home at some point, and a lot of them got home pretty darn quick, sometimes to a home they didn't really want, but they got moved. So it's not a question of moving people. In fact, if you do the numbers, how many people would you have to move in a day, 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year, until you got to 11 million? It takes about 3 or 4 or 5 years, and you're just adding a few flights to every airport in Philadelphia, Baltimore, Washington, Atlanta, North Carolina, and so on. It's not a big thing. Now, first of all, you empty out the prisons. Okay, so that reduces the head count by about 750,000. It also saves a lot of money. And the next time the police are called because someone is just beating on his woman's head senselessly at night, if he doesn't have the papers, he's on a southbound plane the next day. And you begin through attrition and friction to begin to reduce the pool smaller and smaller and smaller. And there are some very passive economic things you can do that will also cause people to walk themselves out of the country in a very compassionate way. But when, again, a leader of the Republican Party comes and says, oh, how many buses do you have? He's treating us like we are stupid folks, and we're not. The problems, Gene, and you know this, the problems in this country that you and I deal with, that our listeners deal with, have every single one have been created by Washington. We didn't do this to ourselves. Who would do this to ourselves?
Gene, another point that Senator John McCain, when he was asked about Donald Trump, and he says Trump is confound the experts and about will the party nominate him. What was the Trump buzz down there at the Value Voter Summit?
Well, let me tell you, Trump was not as well received as he has been in the other rallies that you've seen on TV in past months. There was one point where he even made a disparaging comment about Senator Marco Rubio, and he was actually getting some boos from the crowd at Value Voters Summit. I believe Donald Trump placed 5th in the straw poll there.
That's interesting.
Way behind Senator Ted Cruz and Ben Carson, and I believe even Carly Fiorina, who didn't even show up there.
Well, who did show up? Tell us who showed up down there at the Value Voter Summit.
Well, there were several candidates that showed up. Ted Cruz, of course, was the straw poll winner and gave a rousing speech there in typical Ted Cruz fashion. Marco Rubio was there as well and was well received.
How about Rick Santorum?
Santorum was there, absolutely. He's a perennial attendee. And I got to say, probably was overshadowed more by Rubio and Cruz. Even in the straw poll numbers, he didn't place anywhere near as highly as those two. Governor Mike Huckabee was there speaking as well. We mentioned Donald Trump. Trying to think who else was there. A few others. Ben Carson, of course, was there, and definitely made the rounds through the media. I believe Lindsey Graham was there the second day. It was amazing. It was such a front-loaded schedule. You had 6 candidates one day. There's one that I'm missing that I'm going to try to think of. And then you had Lindsey Graham the second day when all the energy was basically deflated out of the place. So it was well attended by candidates. The 2 notable non-attendees were Carly Fiorina and Chris Christie. In fact, the New York Times had reported that Carly Fiorina that day was in Greenville, South Carolina, speaking to a room of about 1,000 people and then signing copies of her book, which, when people heard about that, didn't really sit well with them because there was more than 3,000 attendees at Value Voters, somewhere between 2,500 and 3,000, I should say. And she could have been in that room discussing social conservative issues with a very energized crowd, Rick. It was triple the size of what it was last year at Value Voters Summit.
Gene, this is Kevin Wade. But that audience, because I've been there, Rick Trader's been there, Values Voters, it's a very polite audience. I mean, even if they don't particularly care for a candidate, they're going to give you, a respectful reception. Is that fair?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, Kevin, we met at Value Voters last year.
We sure did. I remember
for the first
it well.
time. I totally agree. It's normally a respectful audience. And like if Trump was getting booze, he had to do something wrong.
And that's the point I wanted to make.
Younger as well, because Ohio Christian University was one of the major sponsors. So it was not the same crowd as last year, although it did make up a good mix of that and a lot of millennials that were there as well.
And the reason I mentioned how polite and decent the people are in that audience is if you're getting booed, that means you've stepped over the line. And you stepped over the line. These are solid conservatives and thoughtful conservatives as well.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree. And, the line is a dot to Donald Trump. He doesn't care about any lines or anywhere. He's Donald Trump, and he's going to be Donald Trump no matter where. Mm-hmm. An interesting story about Donald Trump as well is he did have a lot of security around him. When one of our friends, Vito DiGiovanni from the Vito and Vito show, who also airs on Conservative Commandos Radio, tried to approach Donald Trump, he was handled a little harshly by security.
Really?
Eventually he did get their contact information and all that, and they apologized, but you couldn't just walk up to the Donald and talk to him like you could with other candidates who were walking around.
Now, that's strange because at the Federation of Republican Assemblies conference down in Nashville last month, Trump was very accessible.
Yeah, definitely not here. And I can't explain for the difference. Maybe the tightening of the polls has got him a little more cautious. I don't know. But when we tried to just walk up, when Vito DiGiovanni, I should say, just tried to walk up, he was met with security. So unlike, Governor Huckabee, who made the rounds with the media and traveled everywhere, while he did have security with him, he was much more accessible, shaking hands and talking to people the way you would expect the presidential candidate to operate.
Well, I think it's also fair to consider that he also may have had threats that the other candidates haven't gotten, and that's part of the
It could well be. For reasons unknown, I'm going to leave it at that, but just reporting the facts that it actually did happen.
But I think in terms of appealing to value voter, constituents, I think that the money that Carly Fiorina is spending to get her message out about opposition to Planned Parenthood, I think over time will win her a lot of support from that voting group.
It's a fair point. I would say that. I think when it comes to Carly Fiorina, the first impressions are all very good. She was a veritable unknown when we were talking back at CPAC, and she made her first impression there with her speech about Hillary Clinton, which kind of propelled her into the presidential field. Mm-hmm. And ever since then, she's been building up good credibility with every debate and every stop she makes. The no-show at Value Voters was definitely a turnoff. But like I said, she still did relatively well in the straw poll there, considering that she wasn't there. Her railing against Planned Parenthood would have resonated greatly with this crowd. Of course, Daniel DeLayden from the Center for Medical Progress was there, talking about his videos. It was the talk of the summit. And why she went there instead of going to Greenville, I can't tell you. But maybe she's taking for granted that the support will be there because of all the investment she's putting into discussing the defunding of Planned Parenthood.
Gene, one last question before we have to let you go. The Pope was in Philadelphia over the weekend. He was in Washington, D.C. on Thursday and Friday. Was there any talk of the Pope and what he had to say to Congress?
There was some discussion. I was able to have the pleasure of sitting down with Dr. Alveda King, which was going to be heard on my show on Thursday. Mm-hmm. And she was in Philadelphia and just missed meeting with the Pope. She was going to be part of the contingent that was going to meet with him. The discussions about Pope Francis were very polite and I wouldn't say deferential. There was some questioning about why he didn't pray before his address to Congress. There was some discussion why Jesus was never mentioned in his speech to Congress.
Interesting.
But overall, people enjoy the energy that the Pope has brought back to Catholicism, and especially the appeal to young people, because that was something that was sorely lacking under Pope Benedict. And if you remember, he was going through the whole, scandals with, the sexual abuse of children and things like that amongst many priests. So this new face of being warm and welcoming to another generation was received warmly. There's of course, still some skepticism about Pope Francis, but I think that they're trying to be as patient as possible with him.
Gene Baradelli, Behind Enemy Lines, heard on Thursdays at 1 p.m. here on WNJC 1360, part of the Conservative Commandos radio network. Gene, we want to thank you for joining us and sharing that interview with John McCain with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much, Rick, and thanks for including me among your commandos on the Conservative Commandos radio network.
You bet. You were one of the originals. You're one of the originals of the network. We appreciate you, Gene. Take care.
Yeah, I'm a charter member. I got the button and everything.
You are.
Thanks a lot, Rick.
Take care. God bless. And you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio network with Kevin Wade and yours truly, Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia and around the world on the internet with CPR Worldwide Media, Leading Edge Radio Network, TalkStream Live, The Pundit Press, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, AM/FM 24/7. They're all .coms. And we have a net now, Kevin. ROAR, Restoring America Radio Network. And they're ROAR radio.net. Don't go away. Kevin and I will be right back.
They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
You've heard Paul Delks playing the music on the Your Music Matters morning show. He is also an experienced mortgage loan officer working for U.S. Mortgage Corporation and assists homeowners navigate the reverse mortgage process. If you are finding yourself asking questions whether or not you set aside enough for retirement, Paul can sit down with you, your family, and your financial advisor and discuss how a reverse mortgage may be a valuable resource for your retirement plan. You will be responsible for paying your taxes and insurance, and the reverse mortgage can help with this and other expenses, such as home health care or other untimely bills. Put Paul's 20-plus years of experience to work for you, as choosing the right option for your situation can be critical. Call Paul at U.S. Mortgage Corporation at 877-213-9977. That's 877-213-9977. Or go to seniormatters.info for more information. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is a licensed mortgage banker in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware, and an equal housing lender. NMLS number 3901. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is located at 201 Old Country Road, Suite 140, Melville, New York, 11747. This advertisement applies to first lien mortgages. Paul E. Dilks, NMLS is 485904.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCSforautomation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We're establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired, as I am, about the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos radio network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on WNJC Radio 1360 a.m. or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioNetwork.com and CCRN.com for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Kevin Wade. Actually, Kevin's out the door right now. He's heading to speak to a group of conservative Republicans in southern Delaware. I'm Rick Trader, and if you'd like to hear rebroadcast of our show, check out our website, ccrshow.com or ccrsnetwork.com. And we've been doing something new here on the Conservative Commandos radio show. We're having a lot of fun with it, and we're bringing in some of our listeners, sort of using them as correspondents, find out what they want to talk about. And what we found out is a lot of what they want to talk about is a little different than what we've been talking, so it's been a lot of fun. And on the phone right now we have with us Kurt. Kurt, welcome to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Hi, Rick. How are you?
Doing fine, thank you, my friend. Kurt, what's on your radar screen this day?
Well, I've noticed that I'm seeing a lot of parallels, and this is looking at social media and various sources. I'm seeing a lot of parallels between what's going on with the Trump campaign right now and what was going on with the Obama campaign. Yeah, I'm somewhat dismayed by it because I'm definitely support Trump as well as all the other conservative candidates.
Well, what do you mean by the similarities between the Trump and Obama campaign, and what's creating concern for you?
Well, one of the strategies is I see the Trump acolytes jumping on people for simply asking a question. And we saw that with Obama. We weren't allowed to ask certain questions. The media didn't allow it. They wouldn't go there. I'm seeing the same thing happening on Facebook, for instance.
Well, you know, Kurt, it's interesting you should know that, because I noticed this phenomena 4 years ago when Ron Paul was in the mix, that there was a lot of Paul bots on Facebook. And my gosh, if you said anything negative about Ron Paul, if you said anything negative about him, you were criticized and chastised. In fact, there was someone who wrote an article about me and the Conservative Commandos radio show, how I was going after Ron Paul. So I don't think, so this may not be a new phenomena, new this year, but I think this is something that has been going on for some time.
I think you're absolutely correct. I believe that we're seeing it more in our faces simply because of the numbers that are involved.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're using a lot of the tactics that we see the left using, and it kind of.
Well, are they using these tactics because people see that it has been effective by the left?
I think part of it is showbiz. I think that we've cheapened the entire electoral process, and we've reduced it to showbiz, to television ratings.
Mm-hmm.
You see, just the way that people respond to any sort of criticism is to demonize the other people. When any statement that's made by any one of the Republican candidates, whether they agree with an opponent's position or not, should be their final statement should be, but my opponent would be far better for this country than Bernie Sanders or Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden, and certainly better than Obama could have ever thought about being. Well, we should present a unified front rather than allowing everybody to chop us apart, and we should be doing it with intelligent dialogue, going back and forth.
Well, Kurt, what I believe is I think that we should be making our cases, and that we should let other people make their cases for the candidate that they support. And again, your observation, I think, about Facebook is correct. It seems like, especially, and when you say it could have started from the left, have you ever got into a debate with someone, especially from the left, and they seem like they can't debate the issues, so they start to attack you personally?
Well, absolutely. And that's because the law for the left is not a uniform instrument of justice, but rather a blunt force trauma instrument to be used to batter opponents into silence. Mm-hmm. That's how the left works. That's how it's always worked. That's how it will continue to work. With the left, the issues are never the issue. The issue is always power. The policies are never the real policy. The policy is always control. The laws are never the law. The law is always domination. Mm-hmm. If you understand this, you understand the designs and totalitarian goals of the political left.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Kurt, did you by any chance watch the last debate?
I watched part of it.
Well, it was pretty hard to watch the whole thing since it was only 3 hours long.
I'm up at 5:30 every morning.
Oh, so God bless you.
Stay awake that late.
It'd be pretty tough to watch the whole thing. But what I found interesting was in the aftermath, it was reported that 44% of the questions was in reference to Donald Trump. It seems to me the media likes to stir the pot also.
Well, I call that the honey boo-boo phenomenon, because that's how simplistic it is, but it's true and it's absolutely working. The left understands how to manipulate people's minds. Nobody wants you to think that they're stupid, so the left gives them 10-second sound bites to make them sound intelligent. For example, those Republicans just obstruct everything. And the same person doesn't understand that the Republican-controlled House sent over 300 bills to the Senate, which was controlled by the left, which never reached the floor for a vote. Mm-hmm. But yet, the Republicans were obstructionist, and the person thinks that they sound intelligent saying that. You know, the liberals have so many scandals going on, so many things that are
it's happening. Like, you're right, Kurt, with that. It's like they get stuck with their hand in a cookie jar and they go, look over there, look over there, look over there. Hey, Kurt, we got to run, but I want to thank you for joining us here on the Conservative Commandos radio show. Take care. God bless.
Thanks, Rick. I always enjoy speaking with you.
Thank you so much. Tell your friends about us. And you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Kevin Wade and yours truly, Rick Trader, coming to you live from the studios. What's that? Yeah, we're going to take a break now. And we're coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network, WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia. Around the world on the internet with CPR Worldwide Media, Leading Edge Radio Network, TalkStream Live, The Pundit Press, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, AMFM247.com, and our newest affiliate, the Roar Radio Network. Don't go away. Be right back.
They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos radio network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, CCRSnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show. I'm Rick Trader, and if you'd like to hear rebroadcasts of our show, check out our websites, ccrshow.com or ccrsnetwork.com. You can also hear our show any time of the day from your telephone by calling 832-999-1199. You don't need an app. You don't need to download anything. You just need to call 832-999-1199. And we're continuing to find out what our listeners are interested in, what's on their radar screen. Nancy, welcome to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
Hey, Rick. Good to be here.
Great to have you back with us, Nancy. What's on your radar screen this day?
Well, I came across something interesting. It was
you always do. By the way, I want to tell our listeners, if you want to follow anybody on Facebook, you want to follow Nancy Smith. I don't know, Nancy. You are amazing. The things that you forward and you find out.
Thanks so much. You know what? I have. I've just been blessed with a tremendous group of. I don't know. I don't really want to call them fans. I guess Facebook friends, and they, for whatever reason, have found confidence to stream me all kinds of newsworthy articles from all over the world, actually. So I feel really fortunate. I've had a few people tell me they go to my page for their morning news. They don't even go to the newspaper. So I'm like, oh, my goodness, don't just do that. But it is flattering, and thank you very much, Rick. I really appreciate that.
You bet. So what's going on today, kiddo?
Well, I did come across something that I thought was very interesting. This is actually from NBC News, and Iran President Hassan Rouhani blames the U.S. for the spread of Mideast terror. And I thought, well, goodness, how in the world could he justify that statement? But if you read the article, they have just this weird, like, backwards sort of logic that it only goes as far as the end of their nose. For example, he blamed the U.S. for the spread of terrorism in the Middle East, saying that the dual post 9/11 wars and its alliance with Israel allowed extremist ideologies to flourish. On the surface, I guess that sounds acceptable until you realize that what exactly were we supposed to do after 9/11? Sit there and twiddle our thumbs? And it was not the United States alone that agreed that Afghanistan and Iraq needed to get their ducks in a row. This was a coalition of nations, and that always gets conveniently left out. Bush did not do anything until he had the backing of most of the nations, I believe, from the UN. So to blame the U.S. solely is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous, and it's not true.
Well, Nancy, that's called revisionist history.
I agree.
The reason, there are many, many, many reasons why nations in the Middle East have a problem with us. One of them is our support for Israel. But I also think there's a lot of jealousy that goes along with that. It's like the Big Brother thing. You know, the Big Brother who's popular, who's the captain of the football team, has a beautiful girlfriend, has a great look, has a great car. You know, so you're jealous of them, and I think the world is very jealous of what we have here in the United States. And it's like they're a bunch of building busters. And what I mean by building busters, Nancy, they want the tallest building in town. So instead of getting bricks and mortar to build their building higher, they go out, everyone else is with a sledgehammer to knock theirs down. Well, they're trying to knock down our society. They hate us because we have a free society. They don't like that.
I agree that those are excellent points, Rick, although they could never come out and actually verbalize that. And as far as being friends with Israel, we've been friends with Israel since Israel became a nation state once again. So,
right, and Nancy, it's not just the United States.
Towards us start immediately when Israel became a nation state? I don't think so.
Well, Israel became a nation state as a result of something the United Nations did. Not the United States, but the United Nations.
Exactly.
Now, but the United Nations right now is
a lot of the surrounding area.
Yeah. And what has happened with the United Nations, the United Nations has been taken over by the loony bin, by the left, by the third world. It's not what it used to be, but I think if people did the research, they would find out that the United Nations created the State of Israel, and it was created from where the Israelis originally came from.
Well, there's lots of...
And by the way, there's never been a Palestine.
Yes, I am aware of that.
Yeah, there's never been a Palestine.
Something that was invented actually by the Romans.
Yeah. So, Nancy, we're dealing with revisionist history. Nancy, I wanted to get your take on the resignation of John Boehner.
You know, that's a really interesting thing that happened that seemed to come out of nowhere. So when something comes out of nowhere, there tends to be more to it than what meets the eye. I think as time unfolds, we're going to find out exactly what it was that finally tipped the the glass for John Boehner. I know that there's been unhappiness about his performance in the Senate for a long time. And if that alone was what it was that caused it, I would be surprised. I think there's going to, as time goes on, we'll find out exactly what it was. That some people have said it's a diversion to take the heat off of Hillary Clinton. I don't know. That's plausible. I really don't know.
I don't get that connection, kind of. How would this take the heat off Hillary Clinton other than,
Because it takes the focus, the Republican focus, the conservative focus off of the email investigation and puts it on John Boehner. I mean, if this was him falling on his sword, as some people are proposing, that would be a mighty sword to fall on. Of course, it wouldn't be the first time that he has done what was asked of him, like a good soldier.
It will be interesting to see if this makes any difference. Apparently, the heir apparent is Kevin McCarthy. He's the House Majority Leader right now, and we had Congressman Steve Stockman on today, who didn't seem to think there is a lot of difference between Kevin McCarthy and John Boehner.
I've heard the same also. Someone described him as not having a conservative bone in his body. So that would just be going from the frying pan to the fire for us, which we certainly do not want to do. Someone also threw out the idea of having Trey Gowdy be the Speaker of the House. I would support that.
I would like to see that. Hey, Nance, I want to thank you for being part of the Conservative Commandos radio show. I always enjoy speaking with Nancy.
My pleasure, Rick, always. Thank you.
Take care. God bless.
You too. Bye-bye.
And I wanted to make mention to our listeners out there that the Conservative Commandos radio show is part of the Conservative Commandos radio network here on WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia. It's a conglomerate of conservative programming. And if you know of a conservative show that would fit in with what we're doing here, or if you do a conservative show, if you produce or host a conservative show, and you'd like more information about what we do here at WNJC 1360, please contact me, and you could send an email to me, rick@conservativecommandosradioshow.com, rick@conservativecommandosradioshow.com. You could also find me on Facebook, Rick Trader, and you could also find me on Twitter. So if you know of a conservative show you think would fit in with our lineup, or perhaps produce one yourself, please let me know. We're always looking for new talent. And I want to thank Mateo for working the boards. I want to thank Kevin Wade for sitting in as my co-host. I also want to thank our guest today, Gene Berdelli and Congressman Steve Stockman. But for right now, we're out of time. We got to run. We got to go. Take care. God bless. And we'll see you tomorrow on the radio.
This is 1360 AM. WNJC, Washington Township, Philadelphia. Philadelphia's Renaissance radio station. Brought to you from Forsyth Broadcasting. Or listen to us at WNJCradio.com.
WNJC is proud to announce that we are now sponsoring Cheer Force Elite, a cheerleading team of extremely talented young girls whose coaches are committed to developing each athlete's skill in a variety of different ways. At Cheer Force Elite, it's not all about winning. It's about learning what hard work is and helping these young girls obtain confidence in themselves. Their primary focus is to promote positive life skills and good character traits that will help you succeed not only in the world of cheer, but in life as well. It's important to know that at Cheer Force Elite, your child is not just another number. They are part of a family, an elite family, so to speak. Cheer Force Elite offers a variety of different things, including but not limited to all-year cheer teams, as well as tumble classes. If you'd like to know more, contact them via email at cheerforceelite@comcast.net or stop by their facility located in West Berlin, New Jersey on 200 Allied Parkway, or give them a call at 856-562-8446. Again, that number is 856-562-8446.
Cheer Force Elite!
Hi, folks. I'm Doug Driesel.
And Blaine Davis.
President Barack Obama. Get him out of here. But if you want your conservatism served up with a side of country comedy, then Doug and Blaine Explain the Game is for you. Coming to you from America's heartland, beautiful Cherokee Village, Arkansas, and Lake Paradise. Don't be fooled, folks. Both sides have their flaws, and Doug and Blaine Explain the Game will teach you how to get through this political season. Join us Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Tell them, Bill. Doug and Blaine Explain the Game. I wish they wouldn't do that.
The leader in talk radio on the internet, right here on K98Talk.com.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-513-6154. That's 1-800-513-6154. Again, 1-800-513-6154. Call now.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.